Good to see some familiar faces, those that don't know. I'm Jeremy Bennett with Congressman Lucas's office. Cover as his field rep in Northwest Oklahoma, but also serve as his Oklahoma Ag Liaison, so help advise on ag policy throughout the state. A couple of things, hopefully not to reiterate a lot of what Brooks ended up having to say, but I think it is important to start this year off understanding kind of where we ended out 2015 at to set yourself up for 2016, knowing, unfortunately, or fortunately for a lot of us, that it is in a presidential election year. So unfortunately, not a lot of legislative things are probably going to get done. There's some things that they're working on right now, some mandatory spending, some chairmans, things like that. But as Brooks mentioned, there was a lot of discussion just this past December of the budget deal that was passed out and ultimately signed by the president. And in that, there was a lot of things in there that was really good actually for Oklahoma, for northwestern Oklahoma, for rural America. A few of those things, one of course was banning the export of oil, lifting that 40-year-old ban. The Congressional Budget Office estimated that hopefully would generate about $1.4 billion in profit. And there's a group that looked here in Oklahoma on how many jobs that will create for Oklahoma, because we are in a very tough time with oil and natural gas. They estimate by 2018 that will add about 11,000 jobs to Oklahoma. So that is something very, very vital and important for us. Also in the budget deal, it limits EPA to its lowest funding level since 2008. It also repealed the ban on cool country of origin labeling. I know that the Congressman has talked a lot about that up here with the Value Added Product Center, things like that. Very, very crucial. It also included a visa waiver program improvement and Terrorist Travel Protection Act of 2015. We have some long titles, but basically this strengthens our country's visa waiver program by tightening those regulations and requirements and blocking visa waiver status to anyone who has recently been to a region with high terrorist activities such as Syria or Iraq. That was a very important victory for us. It increased funds for veterans by 9.8%, and also those that are involved in the farming and ag community, and also small businesses here in Alva. It included Section 179 on the tax code, and basically this made it permanent law. Since its inception, every year you have to wait until the very last part of the year. You have like 3 weeks to go out if you needed to buy farm equipment or anything like that to write off. You only had 3 weeks to do it because they would only pass it at the literally the last minute. And so we were able to make that permanent law. You never have to worry about that again. It is in the books. A big victory in 2015, right at the end there in December, was a reform for the first time since 2002 to education, to the No Child Left Behind. This reformed that. It's the Student Success Act. It gives a lot of control back to the states. It gives a lot of control back to the local areas. And there's actually, in the books, it is written that the Secretary of Education shall not coerce a state or an entity, whatever, of adopting Common Core standards. So I know at the time there were a lot of folks that said, oh, well, it does Common Core. It tells, us as a state we have to do that. No, it doesn't. It specifically says in law the Secretary of Education cannot coerce Common Core curriculum. So that was a big win. Of course, we had the Highway and Transit Bill. There is a lot of federal dollars going to be coming to Oklahoma now, really thanks to Senator Inhofe. For his work on a transportation and highway bill. That's a big blessing for us. Typically, we've gone passing that bill 2 years at a time, and our state folks and you guys here at the local level and county level understand it is very difficult to plan 2 years at a time big projects that need to happen. So this was a long-term highway and transit bill that's bringing a lot of dollars to the state. Also, in 2015, you guys remember the surveillance bill when NSA was collecting bulk phone records? That was something we ended in 2015. Now, if a phone company wants to collect or retrieve your data, they have to go through a court, ask the courts for permission to do that. We're starting to now see the issue between Apple and the FBI. We'll continue watching that. For our hospitals and our doctors, there was a huge win in 2015 on the Doc Fix bill, as they coined it. Basically, that's how we provide medical or Medicare reimbursements. That was a huge victory for rural Oklahoma. Export-Import Bank. I know that the Congressman and I have talked up here on Export-Import Bank. That is basically our nation's bank that helps companies, manufacturing companies primarily, send their products overseas and to be sold on a global equal playing field. There's some like 87 other countries that have similar institutions. However, this bank, since its inception, it's been around for like 75 years, it actually collapsed and dissolved in June of last year. It got into a political battle. It ended up going away. They were able to bring that back in December because there's some 13 companies here in the 3rd Congressional District that uses the Export-Import Bank to help them leverage their products overseas. One of them that you probably would be more familiar with would be in Perry, Ditch Witch. Uses that to help get their products out there. I know we've talked a lot also about hospitals. I visited with Roger this morning. The Congressman is now a co-sponsor of a bill, H.R. 3225. It is the Save Rural Hospital Act. Basically, the Congressman has lost his hospital in his area there in Sayre. Sayre is closing up. 55 rural hospitals have closed, 283 more on the brink. My numbers might be a little bit off. I'm sure folks from the hospital would know more. Since the start of 2013, more rural hospitals have closed than in the previous 10 years combined. So this is a huge crisis. The Congressman is part of now a caucus that is focusing on rural health and hospitals primarily. So we'll watch that. Here recently, the Supreme Court, you might have heard, has blocked the EPA's Clean Power Plan. That's another victory. We've had 2 district courts that have blocked EPA's Water of the U.S. ruling, WOTUS. So we're really seeing that, legislatively we can try and pass what we think is appropriate and stop the EPA and the president. But unfortunately, we know the president is not going to sign that. So if you can't work out of the legislative branch, go to the judicial. And that's what we've been able to do, is blocking some of the implementation that the EPA and the president is wanting to do. So we'll continue to watch that. This year, I know that all of the committee chairmen are working on their mandatory spending cuts and putting forth their budget. So you'll hear in the next couple of months about that. But as Brooks kind of said, unfortunately, it's a presidential election year. A lot of focus is over there on that right now. We'll continue to watch that. I just got off a conference call with the office. The president looks like he might be making another order to bring illegal aliens into the state and into the country and put them into military bases. The Congressman has signed a letter and they are going to work on a bill, the READY Act, to stop that as well. We've seen that here last year with Fort Sill. Taking some of the illegal aliens, so we'll continue to watch that. I know that the Congressman will actually be around in the next, I think it was a month and a half, we'll be here for a town hall meeting. So I'll make sure to let the chamber know and everyone so they can pass it around and you guys can be there. But thanks for having us, and I'll pass it on maybe to the state folks now.